Chuck, Linda called me with a serious problem, and I sent her over to you. You may have heard from her. Maybe she hasn't called you yet. She originally wanted to sell her home. And folks, this is so important. I really can't stress this enough. This question is so important for all people who are thinking about selling your home on your own. She originally wanted to sell her home, put it on some of the sites herself, like Zillow. A buyer agent contacted her with a buyer and then negotiated a price. Linda was unrepresented at the time, by any sort of agent. She had received a medical diagnosis that originally made her think she wanted to sell her house, but after thinking things through, she decided, I don't want to sell. And that's where the problems began. She had already entered into a contract with the buyer agent and the buyer. So, Chuck, I don't know if Linda's reached out to you yet, or I'm using it.
I couldn't confirm or deny whether she did or didn't.
Very good. Well, you know, okay. So what are the options for a seller like Linda who changes their mind, whether they're represented or not represented, but more importantly, because Linda was not represented, what options are there on a contract? And then we'll follow up to what could happen for Linda.
Understand. When you keep saying that they were unrepresented, that isn't as big an issue as it may sound.
Okay.
She was given the opportunity to sign a contract. She was given the opportunity to look at it, have it reviewed, that sort of thing. Nobody just is forced to sign it. Well, I can't say nobody is. This is Kentucky after all. But most people are given an opportunity before they sign to have something looked at. So if you just go ahead and sign it, it falls under that whole you knew or should have known that you should have had somebody look at it. So unless there's serious issues going on and guns being involved and that sort of thing, that's not really anything that you have to think about too much. But with that said, I get the call regularly about, hey, I just signed a contract. How do I get out of it? Okay. If you're the seller, as our question in this case, if you're the seller, well, clearly the first thing that happens is you're going to get a letter from some attorney or somebody saying that there's three things that can happen. One, we can sue you for specific performance. Specific performance is saying, hey, you don't want to do this? Well, we're going to make you do this. You sign the contract. We're going to go after you. Now, in a commercial deal, that's a viable alternative. On a residential, I really don't know of any cases in the last 100 years where that's actually happened. It just isn't likely to happen. Well, if that doesn't happen, then you're going to go to the alternative of, okay, what about damages? If you don't sell the house to these people, well, now we have a set item at a set price. They go out and buy a like item, but it's more money. Well, then the damages are the difference between what they were going to pay for yours and what they paid on the new place. Mm-hmm. Now, they can't go buy a place with gold-plated toilets and use that. It has to be similar. Now, those are real damages that they can come after if you just pull the plug on it with no legal justification. And then finally, you're going to have the realtors who have provided a willing, able, and ready buyer, and they're going to want their commission because they earn the commission when the contract is signed. Okay. Yeah. So those are the damages that are out there. Now, in a case like this, if there's medical issues involved, well, maybe that gives you a little toehold that, there's a certain impossibility, but I really wouldn't put a whole lot of weight on that argument. The best alternative in a case like this, in my mind, is talk to the buyers and say, hey, I can't do this now. It's just not feasible. Please let me out. Here's your good faith deposit back. At that point, I think there'd be a realtor in the background going, hey, wait a minute, I want my commission. Yeah, right. So that might be another part of the negotiation. But I'm wondering about the ethical position of a realtor who tells their client not to sign a release, even though they want to, just so that they can grab the commission on that.
I hear you. That's absolutely wrong. Right.
Yeah, that would not be something in my mind I would agree with.
All right. And my point, though, with this would be, for example, when I'm meeting with a seller, I want to do a litmus test and find out things about how, if they've thought this through, and
Mhm.
if there's a medical issue, what happens? And then where will they move once it sells? Because if you don't have a place to move, it's not just so simple just to simply put the house on the market, sell it, and then move somewhere if you don't have a
Yeah,
place to go.
I get that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's not an issue involved.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that is that really a legal justification? If
Yeah.
my diagnosis is, oh, shoot, I have diabetes, well, that's not really anything here. If my medical diagnosis is, hey, I've got 3 months to live, and
Yeah.
you've got to be bedridden every second of that time, well, that may be another issue. And there's
Right.
always workarounds. Okay, so you can't leave in this time frame. Maybe we can extend that. But the fact of the matter is, signing that contract, unless there's some sort of legal justification to nullify that, things like you didn't know what was in it, there's no meeting of the minds, there was duress, there's mental
Disclosure,
incapacity. Yeah, a lot of those things just don't exist in the, I'd say, almost weekly phone calls I get from sellers who just don't want to close. And the thing that I always point out is, okay, so you don't want to close. How badly do you not want to close? Because these are the damages that you're likely to look at. X amount out of commission, and a possibility that sometime in the future, the buyer will come back and say, hey, I was going to buy your house for 100. I could only find a house similar to that's 120. Well, there's 20 in damages right there.
All right.
So
We will.
it's a
move
sad
on.
situation.
Linda, I hope this helps you a little bit, and we'll continue following up on this if you want, but to keep up to date on this.